The morning rush at Cafe Allegro was in full swing. The small bell above the door jingled non-stop as customers hurried in, most of them regulars who barely looked up from their phones while ordering. Among the 4 servers darting between tables, Maya Peterson moved with practiced efficiency, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, her white button-up shirt already showing coffee stains despite being fresh from the laundry this morning. "Order up," called the cook, sliding 2 plates across the counter. Maya grabbed them and delivered breakfast to an elderly couple by the window. They thanked her warmly, they always did, and she gave them a genuine smile before turning to greet a new table of business people who looked like they were in a hurry. This was her life. 5 days a week, sometimes 6 when someone called in sick. At 27, Maya had mastered the art of balancing 4 plates on one arm, remembering which customer wanted extra hot sauce and which one was allergic to dairy. She could spot an empty coffee cup from across the room and refill it before the customer even realized they needed more. What none of her customers knew was that her hands, now expertly handling plates and wiping down tables, were capable of making music that could bring people to tears. "Maya, table 12 needs their check," said Danny, the shift manager, as she passed by with a stack of menus. "On it," Maya replied, quickly punching the order into the register. The lunch shift ended at 3 p.m., and Maya collapsed onto a chair in the break room, her feet throbbing. She had a 2-hour break before the dinner shift started. Some days she went home to her tiny apartment to rest. But today she had other plans. Once the last lunch customer left and Danny retreated to the office to do paperwork, Maya walked to the far corner of the cafe where an old upright piano sat gathering dust. The owner had bought it years ago, thinking live music might attract more customers, but the idea never really took off. Now it was mostly a decoration, something customers occasionally noticed while waiting for their food. Maya sat on the bench and lifted the cover. The keys were slightly yellowed with age, but she knew they were still in tune. She made sure of that, sneaking in maintenance whenever she could. Taking a deep breath, she placed her fingers on the keys and began to play. Soft, gentle notes filled the empty cafe as her fingers moved across the keyboard with natural grace. She closed her eyes, letting muscle memory take over, playing Debussy's Clair de Lune, a piece that always made her feel at peace. For these few precious minutes, Maya wasn't a waitress anymore. She wasn't worrying about rent or bills or the student loans that still haunted her years after she'd dropped out of music school. She was just herself. "I didn't know you could play like that." Maya's hands froze on the keys. She turned to see Larry, the cook, standing a few feet away, his white apron still on, a look of surprise on his weathered face. "Sorry," she said quickly. "I should be restocking the—" No, Larry waved a hand. "I was just— Wow. Where did you learn to play like that?" Maya's shoulders relaxed slightly. "I studied at the music conservatory for 3 years." 3 years? Then what happened? She shrugged, closing the piano lid gently. "Life happened. Mom got sick. Medical bills piled up. I had to drop out and get a full-time job." Larry nodded slowly. He didn't ask more questions, and she was grateful for that. Her story wasn't unique. Lots of people had dreams they had to put aside. At least she had a job. At least she could still play sometimes, even if it was just in an empty cafe during her break. "You should play for the customers sometime," Larry suggested. "Bet you'd get some serious tips." Maya gave him a small smile but shook her head. "I don't think so. Besides, I don't think Danny would approve." "Your loss," Larry said with a shrug, heading back to the kitchen to prepare for the dinner shift. Maya sighed and stood up. Time to refill salt shakers and ketchup bottles, check the bathrooms, and prepare for another 4 hours of taking orders and carrying plates. As the dinner crowd began to arrive, Maya slipped back into her server persona, friendly, efficient, just personal enough to make customers feel welcome without sharing too much of herself. She had learned long ago that most people didn't really want to know about their server's life. They wanted their food hot, their drinks cold, and their bills accurate. "Excuse me, could I get another coffee?" Maya turned to the voice. The man at table 7 was new. She hadn't seen him before. He looked to be in his 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. There was something about the way he held himself that seemed important, though his clothes were simple, a gray sweater over a button-up shirt. "Of course, sir. Coming right up." As she poured his coffee, she noticed sheet music peeking out of his bag. Her heart skipped a beat, but she said nothing, placing the fresh cup in front of him with a polite smile. "Thank you," he said, then paused. "Your hands? They're a pianist's hands." Maya nearly dropped the coffee pot. "I used to play," she said carefully. "Used to?" His eyebrows rose. One doesn't simply stop being a pianist. A table across the room waved for her attention. "Excuse me, sir. Enjoy your coffee." For the rest of her shift, Maya felt the man's eyes on her occasionally. It made her nervous, though she couldn't say why. When he finally left, leaving a generous tip, she felt both relieved and strangely disappointed. The cafe closed at 9 p.m. Maya's feet were killing her after the double shift, but the tips had been good. Maybe she could finally get her car fixed this week. "You guys go ahead," she told the other closing staff. "I'll finish up." Danny looked at her suspiciously. "You sure? There's still some cleanup in the kitchen." "It's fine. I could use the extra minutes on my check." After everyone left, Maya found herself drawn once again to the piano. She knew she should clean up and go home. She had another opening shift tomorrow, but her fingers itched to play. Just one song, she told herself. Just to end the day on a good note. This time she played something more challenging. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, the third movement. Her fingers flew across the keys, the tempo increasing as the piece built in intensity. She poured all her frustration into the music. Frustration at her stalled dreams, at the endless cycle of work and sleep and bills, at the talent she had that no one ever saw. The final chords rang out, and Maya sat still, breathing hard, her heart racing. Then she heard something that made her blood run cold. Applause. She whirled around to see the silver-haired man from earlier standing by the door. How had she not heard him come in? "The cafe is closed," she said, standing up quickly. "I'm sorry, but that was extraordinary," he said, ignoring her words. "Truly extraordinary. You have a rare gift." Maya felt her cheeks grow warm. "Thank you, but we're closed. I need to lock up." The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, placing it on a nearby table. "My name is Thomas Harwell. I'm with the Symphony Orchestra. We're holding auditions for our Community Spotlight series next week." He gestured toward the piano. "You should come." Maya stared at the card, not moving to take it. "I can't, I work. Request the day off. Tuesday, 2 p.m. He walked toward the door, then turned back. "What's your name?" "Maya," she answered before she could stop herself. "Maya," he repeated, nodding as if confirming something to himself. "I hope to see you Tuesday." After he left, Maya stood frozen for several minutes. Then slowly she walked to the table and picked up the card. Thomas Harwell, Associate Conductor, it read, with a phone number and email address. She slipped the card into her pocket, her mind racing. An audition. With the Symphony Orchestra. It was crazy to even think about it. She hadn't played seriously in years. She'd be embarrassed, humiliated probably. But as she finished cleaning and locked the cafe door behind her, Maya couldn't stop thinking about how it felt to play again. Really play. With her whole heart. For those few minutes, she had remembered who she was beneath the waitress uniform. Walking to the bus stop in the cool night air, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time, a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, her hands were meant for more than carrying plates and wiping tables. Maybe they were still meant to create music. She touched the business card in her pocket. Tuesday at 2 p.m. she had 5 days to prepare. 5 days to decide if she was brave enough to try. Maya couldn't sleep that night. She kept replaying the encounter with Thomas Harwell in her mind, his words echoing, "You have a rare gift." When was the last time anyone had recognized her talent? Had truly seen her? The next morning she arrived at Cafe Allegro 20 minutes early for her shift. The business card felt heavy in her pocket. She still hadn't decided if she would go to the audition, but something had changed inside her. A door that had been closed for years was now cracked open, letting in a sliver of light. "You're early," Danny remarked. Eyebrows raised as Maya tied her apron. "Couldn't sleep," Maya replied with a shrug. She didn't mention the audition. Speaking it out loud might break whatever spell had been cast, might reveal it as the impossible dream it probably was. The morning rush came and went. Maya moved through her tasks automatically, her mind elsewhere. Her fingers tapped piano keys on the edges of tables, played silent melodies as she poured coffee. A customer had to call her name twice before she noticed him waiting to pay. "Sorry," she mumbled, taking his credit card. Just a little distracted today. During her break, she didn't go to the piano as usual. Instead, she sat in the back alley, Thomas's card in her hand, and finally dialed the number. Symphony Orchestra, Thomas Harwell speaking. Maya almost hung up. Hello. This is Maya. From the cafe last night? Maya, I'm glad you called. Have you decided to audition? She took a deep breath. I'd like to, but I haven't played seriously in years. And I work Tuesday afternoons. There was a pause. The audition slot is flexible. We could do Monday instead. As for not playing seriously, what I heard last night was serious playing. Raw perhaps, but genuine. Monday would be my day off, Maya said slowly. Excellent. Monday at 2 p.m. then. Do you need the address? Maya scribbled down the details on a napkin, thanked him, and ended the call, her heart pounding. What had she just agreed to? She had 4 days to prepare. 4 days to remember how to be a pianist instead of a waitress. When her shift ended, Maya practically ran to the bus stop. For the first time in months, she wasn't heading straight home to crash. She had somewhere else to go. The community center 3 blocks from her apartment had a practice room with an old piano. She'd discovered it a year ago, but rarely used it. What was the point of practicing when there was nowhere to perform? But now she had a reason. The room was small and smelled of dust, but the piano was in decent shape. Maya set her bag down and flexed her fingers. What should she play for the audition? Something to showcase technique, but also emotion. Something that would show who she was as a musician. She decided on Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor. It was challenging, perhaps too challenging after so long, but it had been her favorite piece during her conservatory days. If she was going to fail, at least she would fail playing something she loved. The first run-through was rough. Her fingers stumbled over passages that had once been second nature. The fast sections fell apart entirely. Maya gritted her teeth and tried again, and again until the elderly janitor knocked on the door to tell her the center was closing. Walking home in the dark, her fingers ached, but it was a good kind of pain, the kind that meant growth. For the first time in years, Maya felt like she was moving forward instead of standing still. The next 3 days followed the same pattern. Work, practice, sleep, repeat. She took shorter breaks at the cafe, eating quickly so she could spend a few precious minutes at the cafe piano. Danny noticed, of course. You seem different, she said on Sunday as they stocked napkins together. Something happened? Maya hesitated. She hadn't told anyone about the audition, superstitiously afraid that talking about it might jinx her chances. But Danny had always been good to her. I have an audition tomorrow, she finally said. With the symphony orchestra. Danny's eyes widened. No way, that's amazing. It's just for their community spotlight thing, Maya added quickly. It's not like I'd be joining the orchestra or anything. Still, Danny said, that's huge. She studied Maya's face. You're nervous, it wasn't a question. Maya nodded. Want to know what I think? Danny continued. I think you're the most talented person working in this place. And that includes me and Larry. She squeezed Maya's shoulder. You've got this. Those simple words of encouragement carried Maya through her final practice session that night. She played until her fingers couldn't move anymore, until the notes of Chopin's Ballade were so embedded in her muscle memory that she could play them in her sleep. Monday morning dawned bright and clear. Maya woke early, her stomach in knots. The audition wasn't until 2 p.m., but she couldn't stay in her apartment pacing and worrying. She decided to visit her mom. Rose Peterson lived in a small nursing home on the outskirts of town. At 62, she was younger than most residents, but early-onset dementia had made independent living impossible. The medical bills from her diagnosis and care were what had forced Maya to leave the conservatory 4 years ago. Maya found her mother in the common room, looking out the window at the garden. Some days were better than others with Rose's condition. Today seemed to be a good day. Maya. Rose's face lit up. I was just thinking about you. Hi, Mom. Maya hugged her, breathing in the familiar scent of lavender soap. How are you feeling today? Oh, fine. Tell me what's new with you. Maya sat beside her mother and for the first time told someone the whole story. The late-night playing, Thomas Harwell walking in, the audition that was now just hours away. Rose listened intently, her eyes clear and focused. You always had magic in your hands, she said when Maya finished. Even as a little girl? Maya smiled sadly. I don't know if the magic is still there, Mom. It's been so long. Rose took Maya's hands in hers, examining them as if reading a fortune. The music never left you, honey. It's been waiting for you to come back to it. She looked into Maya's eyes. Play for me. The nursing home had an old piano in the corner of the common room. It was out of tune in places, but Maya didn't care. She sat down and began to play. Not Chopin this time, but a simple melody she had written for her mother years ago. As she played, other residents drifted closer, drawn by the music. Maya closed her eyes, letting herself feel the connection between her fingers and the keys, between the music and the people listening. This was why she played, not to impress judges or win competitions, but to touch hearts. When she finished, there was a moment of silence, then applause. An elderly man wiped tears from his eyes. That was beautiful, young lady, he said. Rose was beaming. See, she said as Maya returned to her side. The magic is still there. It was time to leave for the audition. Maya hugged her mother goodbye, promising to visit soon and tell her how it went. You'll be wonderful, Rose said. Just remember why you play. The Symphony Hall was a magnificent building in the heart of downtown. Maya had passed it many times but had never been inside. Now, standing before its grand entrance, she felt very small and very underdressed in her simple blue dress. The nicest thing she owned, but nowhere near the level of elegance this place seemed to demand. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door and stepped into the cool, quiet lobby. A young woman at the reception desk looked up. Can I help you? I'm here for an audition with Thomas Harwell. My name is Maya Peterson. The woman checked a list. Yes, Ms. Peterson. Mr. Harwell is expecting you. Follow me, please. Maya followed her through corridors lined with photographs of orchestras and conductors, past rehearsal rooms where she could hear the faint sounds of instruments being tuned. Finally, they reached a pair of double doors. The main stage, the woman explained. Mr. Harwell prefers to hold auditions here rather than in the smaller rooms. Maya's heart sank. The main stage? She had been expecting a small practice room, not a full concert hall. The woman must have seen the panic in her eyes. Don't worry, she said kindly. The acoustics are wonderful and there's only Mr. Harwell and a few committee members. Just pretend they're not there. With that less than comforting advice, she opened the doors and gestured for Maya to enter. The stage was vast and empty, except for a gleaming grand piano at its center. The auditorium stretched out before it, row upon row of seats disappearing into shadows. In the front row, she could make out 4 figures, one of whom stood as she entered. Maya, Thomas called, his voice echoing slightly in the large space. Right on time. Please come down to the stage. Her legs felt like lead as she walked down the aisle and climbed the steps to the stage. The piano waited, its lid raised, keys exposed like teeth in a smile that might be welcoming or threatening. She couldn't decide which. Thomas met her at the edge of the stage. Are you ready? He asked quietly. Maya thought of her mother's words. Remember why you play? She nodded. Then show us what you can do. Maya approached the grand piano, her heart hammering so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. This instrument was nothing like the worn upright at the cafe or the dusty one at the community center. It was a Steinway concert grand, probably worth more than she'd earn in 10 years of waiting tables. She sat on the bench, adjusting its height. The spotlight made the rest of the hall disappear into darkness, but she knew they were there, Thomas and the 3 other judges, watching, waiting. Whenever you're ready. Ms. Peterson, Thomas called from the shadows. Please tell us what you'll be playing. Maya took a deep breath. Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor, Opera 23. Someone in the darkness made a small noise, surprise perhaps or doubt. It was an ambitious choice. Maya placed her hands on the keys, noticing with dismay that they were trembling. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to steady herself. Remember why you play, her mother had said. Not for judges, not for approval, but for the pure joy of bringing music into the world. She began to play. The opening notes were gentle, questioning, like someone testing unfamiliar ground. Maya felt the keys respond to her touch, more sensitive than any piano she had played in years. She stumbled slightly on a transition, wincing inwardly but pushing forward. The piece built in complexity, her fingers gaining confidence with every measure. As she reached the first climactic passage, something shifted inside her. The nervousness faded, replaced by a sense of homecoming. Yes, this was where she belonged, Not serving coffee, not wiping down tables, but here, creating something beautiful. Her body swayed with the music as her hands flew across the keyboard, muscle memory taking over where conscious practice had left gaps. The middle section flowed seamlessly into the more turbulent final part, her left hand providing the thundering bass notes while her right danced above. In those moments, Maya forgot where she was. She forgot about the years of struggle, the abandoned dreams, the daily grind of her waitressing job. There was only the music speaking through her, telling a story of loss and hope and resilience. Her story. As she played the final descending run and struck the powerful closing chords, tears were streaming down her face. She hadn't even noticed she was crying. Silence filled the hall. Maya kept her hands on the keys, afraid to look up, afraid to break whatever spell had been woven in the past 8 minutes. Had she played well enough? She knew there had been mistakes. A missed note here, a rushed passage there. But she had given everything she had. Then she heard it, the sound of a single person clapping, soon joined by others. She finally dared to look toward the judges. They were standing, all 4 of them, giving her a standing ovation in an empty concert hall. Thomas stepped into the light, his face showing an expression Maya couldn't quite read. "Ms. Peterson," he said, his voice unusually thick. "That was remarkable." A woman with short gray hair joined him. "Technically imperfect," she said, "but emotionally one of the most honest performances of that piece I've ever heard." Maya didn't know what to say. "Thank you," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Would you mind waiting in the lobby?" Thomas asked. "We have a few more auditions to hear, and then we'd like to speak with you." Maya nodded and rose from the bench, her legs shaky. As she made her way off the stage, she heard the judges whispering among themselves. What were they saying? Had she actually done well, or were they just being kind to the waitress who dared to dream? The lobby was empty except for a young man clutching a violin case, presumably the next auditioner. He looked as nervous as Maya had felt. "Good luck," she told him as she passed. He gave her a grateful smile. "Thanks, how was it in there?" "Terrifying," she admitted. "But also wonderful." Maya sat in a plush chair in the corner of the lobby, replaying the audition in her mind. She could have done better with more practice, she knew that. But considering she had only decided to audition 4 days ago, after years away from serious piano playing, perhaps it wasn't so bad. Her phone buzzed with a text from Danny. "How did it go?" Maya smiled and typed back, "Just finished." "Not sure yet. They're still deciding." 3 more musicians came and went. The violinist, a cellist, and a flautist. Each looked both drained and exhilarated after their audition, just as Maya felt. They nodded to each other in silent understanding, fellow travelers on the same nerve-wracking journey. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was probably only 45 minutes, the reception desk phone rang. The receptionist spoke briefly, then looked up. "Ms. Peterson, they're ready for you now." Maya's heart jumped into her throat. This was it. She followed the receptionist back to the concert hall, where the judges were now seated at a table on the stage rather than in the audience. Thomas gestured for her to join them. "Please have a seat," he said, indicating an empty chair. Maya sat, trying to read their expressions. The woman with gray hair was smiling slightly. A younger man with glasses was shuffling through some papers. The 4th judge, an elegant older woman, was watching Maya with intense interest. Thomas cleared his throat. "Ms. Peterson, we were very impressed with your performance today." Maya felt a flutter of hope. "As you know," he continued, "our Community Spotlight series features talented local musicians performing with the orchestra. We typically choose 1 musician per concert, for a total of 4 throughout the season." Maya nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "The competition is quite fierce. We've been holding auditions all week and have several more days scheduled." Her hope began to fade. This sounded like the beginning of a rejection. "We were impressed, but—" "However," Thomas said, "we are unanimously agreed that we would like to offer you a spot in our winter concert." Maya stared at him. "You, what?" The gray-haired woman smiled more broadly now. "We want you to perform with the orchestra, dear. The Chopin would be perfect. February 15th. That gives us about 3 months for rehearsals. I don't know what to say," Maya stammered. "Say yes," the elegant older woman suggested, speaking for the first time. Her voice carried the hint of an accent Maya couldn't place. I am Eliza Winters, principal pianist with the orchestra. I would be happy to work with you personally on preparing the piece. Maya's mind was spinning. They wanted her to play with the orchestra, under the guidance of Eliza Winters, whose name she now recognized from recordings and concert posters. There is, of course, a modest honorarium, Thomas added. Not much, I'm afraid, just $1,500 for the performance plus compensation for rehearsal time. Maya almost laughed. To her, struggling to make rent each month, that was a fortune. Yes, she said, her voice stronger now. Yes, I would be honored. They discussed logistics for a few minutes, rehearsal schedules, paperwork, promotional materials they would need. Maya nodded along, trying to absorb it all, while part of her still couldn't believe this was happening. As the meeting concluded, Eliza approached her. You have something special, she said quietly, something that cannot be taught. But your technique needs refinement. Are you working with a teacher currently? Maya shook her head. No, I had to leave the conservatory 4 years ago. I haven't had formal training since then. I see. Eliza considered this. We should begin as soon as possible then. Can you come to my studio this Thursday? 4 o'clock? Private lessons with Eliza Winters? Maya could scarcely believe it. Yes, I can arrange that. Good, here's my card. I look forward to our work together. As Maya left the symphony hall, stepping into the late afternoon sunlight, she felt as if she were walking in a dream. Her phone buzzed again, another text from Danny. Well? Maya grinned and called her instead of texting. They chose me, she said when Danny answered. I'm going to perform with the orchestra in February. Danny's shriek of excitement was so loud Maya had to hold the phone away from her ear. I knew it. I totally knew it. We have to celebrate. Come by the cafe right now. I'll tell everyone. I have to call my mom first, Maya said, but I'll be there soon. She called the nursing home next and was connected to her mother's room. Mom, it's Maya. Maya, sweetheart, how did your audition go? For the second time that day, tears filled Maya's eyes, but these were pure joy. They loved it, Mom. They want me to perform with the orchestra. And Eliza Winters, you know, the famous pianist I used to have recordings of. She's going to give me private lessons. Oh, Maya. Her mother's voice broke with emotion. I am so proud of you. I always knew you would find your way back to music. I couldn't have done it without you, Maya said softly. You always believed in me even when I stopped believing in myself. After promising to visit soon with all the details, Maya headed to Cafe Allegro. As she approached, she could see through the window that it was packed with the dinner crowd. Danny would be in the weeds without her help. Maybe she could pick up a partial shift just to pitch in. But as she reached for the door, Maya paused. Her life had just changed course. She wasn't sure exactly where she was headed now, but she knew it was time to start seeing herself differently, not just as a waitress who used to play piano, but as a pianist who happened to wait tables, for now. With newfound confidence, she pushed open the door, ready to share her news and take the first step toward her new future. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind. Maya still worked at Cafe Allegro, but Danny had rearranged her schedule to accommodate Thursday afternoon lessons with Eliza Winters and Sunday rehearsals with the orchestra. Her regular customers noticed the change in her, a new lightness in her step, a brightness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. You seem different lately, said Mr. Chen, an elderly man who came for coffee every morning, always ordering the same thing, black coffee, 2 sugars, and a plain bagel with cream cheese. Maya smiled as she refilled his cup. I'm playing piano again. With the symphony orchestra, Mr. Chen's eyebrows shot up. No wonder you've been humming Chopin while pouring coffee. I thought I recognized it. You know Chopin? Maya asked, surprised. My wife was a piano teacher, he said, a hint of sadness crossing his face. 52 years before she passed. I still listen to her recordings every night. From that day on, Mr. Chen would ask about her progress, genuinely interested in her musical journey. Maya found herself looking forward to their brief morning conversations. It felt good to talk about music with someone who understood. Her first lesson with Eliza Winters had been intimidating. The renowned pianist lived in a beautiful brownstone with a separate studio in the back garden, a light-filled room with 2 grand pianos facing each other. Maya had felt out of place there, still wearing her work clothes because she hadn't had time to change after her shift. Play the opening section for me, Eliza had instructed without preamble. Maya did as she was asked, her nervousness making her fingers stiff. Eliza stopped her after only 16 measures. Your wrists are too tight. You're playing from your fingers alone, not using the weight of your arms. She demonstrated, the same passage flowing effortlessly under her hands. Again, please. By the end of that first lesson, Maya's brain was buzzing with technical adjustments to make, new ways of approaching passages she thought she already knew. It was exhausting but exhilarating. You have 3 months, Eliza had said as Maya was leaving. It's not much time to undo years of bad habits. You must practice every day, not just playing through the piece, but focused work on the sections we discussed. I will, Maya had promised. And she meant it. She found time to practice wherever she could, an hour before work, during breaks, late at night at the community center. She bought a cheap keyboard to keep in her apartment, so she could practice fingering silently when it was too late to make noise. Her hands ached constantly, but it was a good kind of pain, the kind that meant progress. The orchestra rehearsals were another challenge entirely. The first time Maya walked into the massive rehearsal hall, seeing the full orchestra assembled, violins, cellos, brass, woodwinds, percussion, she nearly turned around and ran. What was she doing here? She was just a waitress playing at being a musician. Thomas had sensed her panic. Everyone feels overwhelmed their first time, he'd said quietly, guiding her to the piano. Just focus on your part. The rest will come together. And gradually it did. Sunday after Sunday, the Chopin ballade merged with the orchestral arrangement, her solo part standing out against the backdrop of the full orchestra. There were rough spots, moments where she lost her place or where the timing wasn't quite right. But with each rehearsal, the piece took clearer shape. 6 weeks before the concert, Maya faced a difficult decision. The rehearsals were becoming more frequent as the performance approached, and her shifts at the cafe were increasingly hard to manage alongside her musical commitments. You need to cut back your hours, Danny told her bluntly one evening as they closed up. You look exhausted. I can't afford to, Maya said, wiping down tables mechanically. The performance honorarium won't come until after the concert, and I've still got rent, plus Mom's care facility payments. Danny was quiet for a moment, then said, What if you played here? For real, I mean. Friday and Saturday nights. I've been thinking about bringing live music back to the cafe, and the customers who've heard you love it. Maya stopped wiping. Are you serious? I'd pay you, of course. Not a fortune, but it would help make up for the reduced shifts. That weekend, Maya played her first official set at Café Allegro. Danny had put up flyers, posted on social media, and spread the word to regular customers. To Maya's surprise, the place was packed. She played a mix of classical pieces and more accessible jazz standards, finding a joy in performing for this crowd that was different from, but no less satisfying than her orchestra rehearsals. Word spread quickly. The next weekend was even busier, with people waiting for tables just to hear her play. A local food blogger mentioned the pianist Waitress in a review, calling her playing soulful and unpretentious. By the third weekend, people were making reservations specifically for her performance slots. You've got quite a following now, Larry, the cook remarked one night as Maya took a break between sets. Never seen the place this full, not even during holiday season. Maya smiled, still not entirely comfortable with the attention, but grateful for the extra income and the chance to play regularly. The cafe gig had unexpected benefits beyond money. It was helping her get used to performing for an audience again, calming her nerves, teaching her to keep going even when she made mistakes. Her lessons with Eliza continued, growing more intense as the concert approached. Eliza was a demanding teacher, never satisfied with merely good when excellence was possible. But beneath her exacting standards, Maya sensed genuine care. You've made remarkable progress, Eliza told her during their lesson 3 weeks before the concert. When Thomas told me he'd found a waitress who played Chopin, I was skeptical. I've taught conservatory students for 30 years, and few have your natural musicality. Coming from Eliza, this was high praise indeed. Maya felt her cheeks flush. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Eliza replied, a glint in her eye. We still have work to do on the coda. From the beginning of the last section, please. 2 weeks before the performance, Thomas arranged a dress rehearsal in the concert hall itself. Maya wore the only formal dress she owned, a simple black dress she'd bought on sale years ago for a cousin's wedding. It was a bit tight now, but it would have to do. The dress rehearsal went well until the final movement when Maya's nerves got the better of her. She fumbled a difficult passage, tried to recover, but ended up stopping completely, the orchestra continuing briefly before Thomas cut them off. "I'm sorry," Maya said, mortified. "Can we try again?" Thomas nodded, but as Maya repositioned her hands, she caught sight of someone sitting alone in the back row of the otherwise empty hall. Even from a distance, she recognized him, Anton Riviera, the renowned conductor and competition judge known for his brutal honesty and exacting standards. What was he doing here? "Focus, Ms. Peterson," Thomas called, drawing her attention back to the task at hand. "From measure 192, please." Maya took a deep breath and began again, trying to ignore Riviera's presence. This time she made it through the difficult section, though not as cleanly as she would have liked. After the rehearsal, Thomas approached her as she was gathering her sheet music. "Anton Riviera is an old friend," he explained, seeming to read her thoughts. "He's in town for a guest conducting appearance and asked to sit in on our rehearsal. I hope you don't mind." "Of course not," Maya lied, her stomach in knots. Someone of Riviera's stature wouldn't waste his time on a community spotlight performer, unless Thomas had said something to pique his interest. The thought was terrifying. As if summoned by her thoughts, Riviera himself appeared beside Thomas. Up close, he was less intimidating, a slight man with silver hair and intelligent eyes behind round glasses. "Ms. Peterson," he said, his accent more pronounced than she'd expected. "Thomas tells me you were away from the piano for several years before this?" Maya nodded. 4 years. I had to leave the conservatory to care for my mother and work full-time. Riviera's expression gave nothing away. "Interesting. And you work as a waitress, yes? At a cafe?" Again, Maya nodded, wondering if he was mocking her. "I would like to attend your cafe performance sometime," he said unexpectedly. "Thomas tells me you play there regularly now." "Friday and Saturday evenings," Maya replied, too surprised to say more. "Good, I will see you there. Perhaps." With a nod to Thomas, he walked away. "What was that about?" Maya asked once Riviera was out of earshot. Thomas smiled. "Anton doesn't waste time on musicians he finds uninteresting. Take it as a compliment." The following Saturday, Maya arrived at Café Allegro for her regular performance to find Anton Riviera seated at a small table near the piano. Her heart nearly stopped. He nodded to her but said nothing, sipping his tea as she sat up. That night, Maya played with a mixture of terror and determination. She chose pieces she knew well and loved deeply. Some Debussy, a bit of Bach, even a Gershwin arrangement. She deliberately avoided Chopin, not wanting to give Riviera a preview of her upcoming concert performance. When she finished her first set, the cafe erupted in applause. Maya smiled and bowed slightly, her eyes involuntarily seeking out Riviera. He wasn't clapping, but there was something in his expression, a thoughtfulness and assessment that felt more valuable than applause. As she headed to the back for her break, Danny grabbed her arm. "That guy in the corner hasn't taken his eyes off you all night," she whispered. "Should I be worried?" Maya laughed, some of the tension leaving her body. "That's Anton Riviera. He's one of the most respected conductors in the world." "And he came to hear you at Café Allegro?" Danny's eyes widened. "Maya, do you realize what this could mean?" Maya didn't want to think about what it might mean. One step at a time, she told herself. First survive the concert, then worry about what came after. But as she returned for her second set and saw Riviera still there, waiting, watching, she couldn't help but feel that her life was about to change again, perhaps even more dramatically than before. The night of the concert arrived faster than Maya could believe. February 15th, a date that had once seemed so far away, was suddenly here, written in bold letters on the Symphony Hall marquee. Winter Showcase featuring Maya Peterson. Piano. Seeing her name displayed so publicly gave Maya a strange feeling, a mixture of pride and terror. 3 months ago, she had been just another waitress. Tonight, she would perform with a professional orchestra in front of 1,000 people. Backstage was a flurry of activity. Musicians in formal black attire tuned their instruments, chatted in small groups, or sat quietly, mentally preparing. Maya found a corner away from the bustle, closing her eyes and running through the piece in her mind one last time. Nervous, Maya opened her eyes to find Thomas standing beside her, looking sharp in his conductor's tuxedo. Terrified, she admitted. He smiled. "Good, A little fear keeps us sharp. He glanced at his watch. 20 minutes. The house is full, by the way. We had to add extra seats. That didn't help Maya's nerves. Is Anton Riviera here? Front row, center, Thomas confirmed. And he brought friends, the director of the International Piano Competition and the dean of the National Conservatory. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. What if she messed up? What if her finger slipped or she lost her place or... Maya, Thomas said gently. Forget about them. Forget about the audience entirely. Tonight is about the music, about sharing something beautiful with the world. Everything else is just noise. She nodded, trying to believe it. Thomas squeezed her shoulder and moved away to speak with other orchestra members. A stagehand appeared. 5 minutes, Miss Peterson. Maya smoothed down her dress, a deep blue gown Eliza had lent her for the occasion, and took several deep breaths. You can do this, she told herself. You've played this piece hundreds of times. It's just you and the piano. Everything else is just noise. From the stage came the sound of the orchestra tuning to the concertmaster's A. Then applause as Thomas walked out. More applause, and Maya knew it was her cue. She stepped onto the bright stage, the spotlight momentarily blinding her. The audience was a dark mass beyond the stage lights, but she could feel their eyes on her as she walked to the piano and took her seat. Thomas nodded to her, raised his baton, and the orchestra began the introduction. The first notes Maya played were tentative, her fingers stiff with nervousness. But as the familiar melody unfolded, something shifted inside her. The countless hours of practice, the guidance from Eliza, the journey that had brought her to this moment, it all converged. And suddenly the music was flowing through her. Her body swayed with the rhythm, her hands finding the keys with certainty. The orchestra supported her, rising and falling in perfect harmony with her playing. In that moment, Maya wasn't thinking about technique or timing or the audience watching. She was simply living the music, telling her story through Chopin's notes. When she reached the challenging section that had given her trouble in rehearsal, she didn't hesitate. Her fingers danced across the keys, the passage emerging clear and confident. She caught Thomas's eye briefly, saw his smile of approval, and felt a surge of joy. The final movement approached, building toward the dramatic conclusion. Maya poured everything into it. All the years of struggle, the abandoned dreams, the recent weeks of renewal and hope. The last chords resonated through the hall, powerful and triumphant, and then silence. For one terrible moment, Maya thought something had gone wrong. Then the audience erupted in applause. They were standing, all of them, a sea of people on their feet, clapping and cheering. The sound washed over Maya in waves as she rose from the piano bench, her legs shaky, and bowed. Thomas was beaming as he gestured for her to take another bow. The orchestra members were applauding too, some tapping their bows against their instruments in a musician's tribute. Maya felt tears in her eyes as she acknowledged the audience once more before walking off stage. That was magnificent, Eliza said, meeting her in the wings. The usually reserved pianist was actually smiling, her eyes bright with pride. Truly magnificent. I can't believe it, Maya whispered. I actually did it. You did more than do it, Thomas said, joining them after taking his own bow. You brought down the house. The rest of the concert passed in a blur. Maya watched from the wings as the orchestra performed their remaining pieces, her body still humming with adrenaline. When it was over, Thomas insisted she join them for the final bow, bringing her back on stage to another round of enthusiastic applause. In the reception area afterwards, Maya found herself surrounded by well-wishers, orchestra members congratulating her, audience members asking for autographs, music lovers wanting to discuss her interpretation of Chopin. It was overwhelming but wonderful. Maya, it was Danny, pushing through the crowd with Larry and several other Café Allegro staff behind her. You were amazing. She wrapped Maya in a tight hug. You guys came, Maya said, touched by their support. Are you kidding? We closed the cafe early. Couldn't miss our star performer. Danny handed her a slightly squished bouquet of flowers. These are from all of us. Maya's mother was there too, brought by a nurse from the care facility. Rosa's eyes were filled with tears of joy as she embraced her daughter. I knew, she kept saying. I always knew you would find your way back to music. As the crowd began to thin, Maya noticed a small group watching her from a distance. Anton Riviera, with two others she didn't recognize, Presumably the competition director and conservatory dean Thomas had mentioned. "They want to speak with you," Thomas said, appearing at her elbow. "Are you up for it?" Maya nodded, suddenly nervous again. Thomas led her over to the group. "Ms. Peterson," Riviera said, "allow me to introduce Dean Patricia Watkins of the National Conservatory and Director Henry Liu of the International Piano Competition." Maya shook their hands, trying to keep her own from trembling. "Your performance tonight was quite remarkable," Riviera continued. "As I understand it, you were forced to abandon your studies some years ago." "Yes," Maya said. "Family circumstances," Dean Watkins nodded sympathetically. "Thomas and Eliza have told us about your situation." "The conservatory has a special program for exceptional mature students, those who have demonstrated unusual talent but taken non-traditional paths. We would like to offer you a place with a full scholarship." Maya stared at her, speechless. "Additionally," Director Liu added, "we would like to extend a special invitation for you to participate in this year's International Piano Competition, with the application fee waived. Your performance tonight would serve as your preliminary audition." Maya's mind was spinning. The National Conservatory, the most prestigious music school in the country. The International Piano Competition, a launchpad for serious careers in music. These opportunities were beyond anything she had dared to hope for. I don't know what to say," she managed finally. "Say yes," Riviera suggested, the hint of a smile softening his stern face. "Yes," Maya said, her voice stronger. "Yes to both. Thank you." As the group discussed details, Maya caught sight of Mr. Chen, her regular customer, waiting patiently nearby with his wife's old record of Chopin performances for her to sign. Beyond him, she saw the residents from her mother's nursing home who had come to support her. And there was Danny, still beaming with pride for her friend. These were the people who had seen her, really seen her, when she was just a waitress. Who had believed in her talent even when she'd stopped believing in herself. They were as much a part of her success as anyone. Later that night, after all the congratulations and plans and celebrations, Maya returned to her small apartment. She was exhausted but too wired to sleep. On her kitchen table sat the program from the concert, her name printed in bold letters. Maya Peterson Piano. Next to it was her waitress apron from Café Allegro. Maya ran her fingers over it, feeling the rough fabric, remembering all the days and nights she'd worn it, serving coffee and clearing tables while her dreams of music gathered dust. She wouldn't be needing it anymore, at least not full-time. Danny had already assured her she could keep playing at the cafe on weekends if she wanted to, even with her new conservatory schedule. "You're our star attraction now," Danny had joked. Maya picked up her phone and scrolled to the photos Danny had taken tonight. Maya at the piano, Maya taking a bow, Maya surrounded by well-wishers. In each image, she was smiling, glowing with a happiness she hadn't felt in years. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. The conservatory would be demanding, the competition fierce. But for the first time in a long time, Maya felt ready for the challenge. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She wasn't just a pianist either, she was both, shaped by her struggles as much as by her talents. The years serving tables hadn't been a detour from her true path. They had been part of it, teaching her resilience and humility and the value of hard work. As the first light of dawn began to filter through her window, Maya finally felt sleep approaching. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, a new chapter in her story. But whatever came next, she would face it with the same determination that had carried her through tonight's performance. She was Maya Peterson, waitress, pianist, and now against all odds musician on the rise, and her song was only just beginning.